All right. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. How are you all doing today? It's always a pleasure to see you. So many of you join us on a Saturday afternoon. Good call, guys. So, what is We Connect webinar series? So, I will talk to you about a little bit about what We Connect webinar series is all about. We Connect is an initiative by Westford University College aimed at building a connection between inspirational leadership in industry professionals who share real life scenarios by discussing industry trends and performances across modern day organization in a fun, engaging, and interactive manner. Our goal is to bring together bright minds to give talks that are idea focused on a wide range of subjects, along with fostering learning, inspiration, and most importantly, wonder and provoke conversations that matter. And today, ladies and gentlemen, amongst us, we have a special speaker, an inspirational speaker, a great coach and philanthropist, and a CEO. It's none other than Mr. James Lafferty. A little bit about who Mr. James is. Mr. James is currently the CEO of Fine Hygienic Holding and has often been described as one of the most unique and diversified CEOs in the world today. He is not only a successful CEO, he is an Olympic coach, an award-winning journalist, a college professor, a competitive athlete, a philanthropist, husband, and a father of 5 beautiful children. James started his career with the humble roots as a youth track and field coach hired by Procter and Gamble in his native Cincinnati, Ohio. James was recruited from the ranks of fitness instructor to enter P&G's esteemed brand management program. After superb business and organization results on the US business, James was transferred into an international career that took him to North Africa, Central and Eastern Europe. And I must say, Eastern Europe, Middle East, Western Europe, Africa, Asia, in short, all over the world. A little bit about the achievements of Mr. James. I must say that Mr. James was awarded as a CEO of the Year by both the Burj CEO Awards associated with the government of Dubai in 2019. He's the GCC's Best Employer Award of Employer Award CEO of the Year. In addition, James was named by Diamond Health as the Wellness Visionary of 2019. And Forbes magazine Middle East also ranked him amongst the top 50 CEOs. If you need to know a bit more about James, you can go into his website, jamesmichaellafferty.com. But James has had a CEO roles across different industries, from Coca-Cola to Procter and Gamble to British American Tobacco. Today he comes here with a wealth of knowledge to share with you a slice of his life, to inspire you in whatever you wish to do. So, ladies and gentlemen, without much ado, I would request Mr. James to join us on board. Before that, I just want to give you a little one rule to follow. That said, is that any questions you have for Mr. James, you can put it in the Q&A section in the top right-hand side of your screen. And towards the end of the session, we're going to have a nice fire chat with Mr. James, and we're going to ask him all these questions and really get and make the most out of this session. So all the best and have fun, and over to you, Mr. James.
Okay, thank you very much, Sakina. I hope my slides are projecting to everyone. Thank you for joining me on this Saturday afternoon here in the UAE or wherever you are. And the topic that we're going to be talking about is the winning leadership mantra. Now, given that this is a tailored presentation for soon-to-be college graduates, I think there would be perhaps a more appropriate title because we're going to go back in time in my life. We're going to go back 35 years to when I was leaving university. And the more apt title would be going from the weight room or the fitness center or whatever you want to call it to the boardroom. because that's really how I got my start in my entire corporate life, was going from the weight room to the boardroom. Now, throughout my life, and certainly going back into university, I believed very strongly in the concept of serendipity. Serendipity basically means that you don't know where your life is going to end up. And in reality, you don't. If you have dreams today of where you're exactly going to be in 10 years, I can assure you that you're not going to be there. Now, you may be, here's the good news, you may be better off than you thought. And I think that's how my life has turned out. I had a certain set of dreams at 22 years old. And when you have dreams, you got 3 options. Option 1 is that you can miss your dreams by a great distance. So if you look at anyone today who is, for example, in prison, if you ask them when you were 20, did you want to be in prison? The answer will be no. But because of choices they made and bad choices they made and decisions that were made, they're in jail today. And so sometimes for people, they miss their dreams by a great distance. And it's sad, but it happens. The second group is the majority of humanity. They have a set of dreams and they don't hit them exactly, but they come close. They want to marry this person. They don't marry that person, but they marry someone close to that person. They want to live on this neighborhood. They don't live in that neighborhood, but they live 2 neighborhoods away. They want to work for company A and they don't work for company A, but they work for company B. I mean, life doesn't turn out exactly the way you think, but it can come close. And then there's the third group. And the third group is the group that I want all of you to be in, that especially all of you at Westford who are looking to graduate in the next couple of years. I want your life to be much better than you even dream it will be possible. And that's where I put myself. And that's the concept of serendipity, which is you don't know how things are going to play out. I started my life, I studied exercise physiology and child psychology. I have a double major in physiology and psychology. I started coaching youth track and field in the city of Cincinnati, Ohio, during my sophomore year of college or my second year of college. I was signed by a school district, Forest Park School District, and I was basically coaching mainly an inner city track and field team, primarily youth African Americans from a tough neighborhood in Cincinnati. And, you know, my knowledge of track and field, my knowledge of physiology was pretty good. But what I was really good at was I was good at convincing young kids who were being offered opportunities to maybe do drugs or maybe sell drugs or maybe engage in other criminal activity. I was very good at convincing them to listen to me, to come to practice and run every day. Instead of going out and selling crack cocaine, listen to me and come to practice every day and run and sweat, and I could get them a college education. And our team was incredibly successful. We won championships everywhere. And basically my main skill was I was able to keep kids out of jail and keep them out of trouble and keep them from getting pregnant. And at a very young age, at 19 years old, I was already coaching the U.S. junior national team. And it was there I started to work with some of people that went on to win Olympic gold medals, people like Michael Johnson. This is he and I at a coaching clinic in Poland about 20 years ago. You know, I've known Michael since he was 13 years old. And, you know, he was a junior national runner. I coached a number of athletes that ran against him. I also worked a little bit with him, but, you know, he was part of the U.S. national program back in those early 80s. And that's what I wanted to do. And I loved what I was doing. And when I graduated, that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to teach. I wanted to coach track and field. And I basically had resigned myself to the fact that I was never going to make any money and that I was going to struggle my whole life. But that's what I wanted to do. And my senior year in college, my girlfriend got pregnant. And we had a baby and we decided to keep the baby. And now I was a college student with a baby and with a girlfriend. And I was struggling big time. And I was doing lots of different jobs. I was not only coaching, but I was also doing very difficult work. I dug ditches and sewer lines for the city of Cincinnati. So I put in sewer lines and I used to stand in sewage up to my hips putting in the piping system underneath the roads in the middle of the night. And one of the things I did to earn money was I started my own company, which did corporate fitness consulting. And this was 1984, 1985, and this was the beginning of the fitness, of companies looking at corporate fitness as a concept. And there I was sitting in Cincinnati, Ohio in the US, and there's a big company that's based in Cincinnati called Procter and Gamble. It's a consumer goods company. And Procter and Gamble has always been a quite forward-thinking company. And they decided that they wanted to offer fitness classes to their senior executives. And so they offered a range of programs, and they hired my company and they hired me to do that. And we had a program called Executive Fitness Consulting, where I would meet with the executive and we would do a battery of tests. And one of the tests we did is we measured their body fat. Now, if you look at how to measure body fat, the most accurate way to measure body fat is this concept called hydrostatic weighing. What you do is you weigh a human being underwater, because the only thing that floats in your human body is oxygen and body fat. Everything else sinks. Bones sink, organs sink, muscles sink, other tissue sinks, but body fat floats. So if I get your body weight underwater and you blow all the air out of your lungs, and if I get your body weight in the air, I can instantly calculate with precision what % of your body is fat. This is the most accurate way of measuring the health of someone's body composition. Now, if you look at these pictures, this is an actual hydrostatic tank. As you can imagine, this is complicated. It's expensive. You need the equipment, and you need to teach people how to do it. And so the technique that I used with these executives was a less scientific but still accurate method called skin fold calipers, which is you pinch folds of fat around the body. You typically do 7 different folds in 7 different places. You do the arm and the thigh and the love handle and your stomach and on your back, and you do different places. And then you plug these into a algorithm called the Jackson-Pollock, algorithm, and it spits out your body fat. And so what you do is you tell these people, take your clothes off down to your underwear, and I'm going to measure different parts of your body. Now, it's this day in 1984, late 1984, and I didn't know that it was going to be a day that changes the rest of my life. And that's what serendipity is. Some days you wake up, you have no idea, but your life is going to change forever. And this was a day that my life was going to change forever. And so I have this brand manager from Procter and Gamble as my client, and I've got to measure his body fat. And he's like a typical big shot executive. He comes in, remember I was 21 years old, and he comes in, he's like 40, and he's Mr. Tough Guy in his suit and tie and everything. And then I strip him down to his boxer shorts. And at that point, the emperor has no clothes. And I'm pinching different folds of fat, and I'm measuring them with this caliper. And he's like most people, he's a bit nervous, and people tend to babble and they tend to talk a little bit. And he says to me a statement that changes the rest of my life. He says, "You know what? I'm getting to know you, and I've come to a conclusion. You should do what I do." And I said, "What do you do?" And he said, "I'm in brand management at P&G. And my response was, "What in the world is a brand manager?" And so he describes to me this world that I knew nothing about of managing a brand and being like a mini little CEO of a business, of a brand, and caretaking for that brand and loving that brand and treating that brand like your baby, and coming up with ideas to build that brand and make consumers want to buy that brand. And I was very interested in what I heard. And so he says to me, while we're doing all this testing, he says, "I'll help you apply and get you an interview." And so he takes my CV and we put it into the system, and they give me a test, and I get an initial interview. And I guess I did very well on the test, this written test, a problem solving test. And I did well in the interview, because then they send me a nice letter and they say, "We'd like to spend the full day with you, interviewing you to see if we should bring you into Procter and Gamble and brand management." And so I'm all excited, and here I am. I get called into P&G, and I interview with 3 different brand managers and 3 different people, and I thought it went very well. And this was in, the end of 1984. And it's pretty clear what the world was like back then. There was no internet. There was no cell phones. There was no SMS. There was no websites. There was none of this stuff. So when you do an interview, you go home and you wait for a letter in the mail. And so I go home and I wait, and 7 to 10 days later, I get this letter from Procter and Gamble, and I'm so excited, and I rip it open, and it's a standard classic P&G letter. What's a standard classic P&G letter? Well, paragraph 1 is typically full of BS or full of lies. It says, dear Mr. Lafferty, it was so nice to meet you. You're so interesting, all your background in sports and coaching, and you have wonderful stories. We all loved interviewing you. We all loved meeting you. We couldn't stop talking about you, blah, 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 blah. Then paragraph 2 of a classic letter, they tell you the truth. And paragraph 2 starts off by saying, however, comma, after careful consideration, we've come to the conclusion you're not a good enough fit with Procter and Gamble culture. Therefore, we cannot extend you an offer. We wish you the best of luck for the rest of your life. Now, at that point, I've been turned down. I failed in the final stage. But I was raised differently. I was raised that you could fight anything, you could challenge anything. And I really liked what I saw when I was in those interviews and talking to these people. I liked the people, I liked the company, I liked the job, and I knew I could do it. So for me, you fight back. And so I go to the library and I study who is the head of human resources at Procter and Gamble. And it was a guy named Samuel Pruitt at that time. And so I type this letter, it's not word processing, it's not email. I have to type a letter and tear it out of the typewriter and sign it and put it in an envelope and put stamps on it, the old days. And I typed this letter, dear Mr. Pruitt, interviewing is not a science, it's an art, and your artists need help. They don't do a good job. I demand another chance. And P&G was so shocked that this 21-year-old fires off this letter like this, that lo and behold, like a month later, they said, come back for more interviews. So they brought me back for a second round with 3 completely different people. And by then I had kind of, not all the way, but I kind of accepted a job running a fitness center down in New Orleans, Louisiana, in the southern part of the US. And so I was a bit relaxed. I had a job that would pay for my baby, and support my baby, because that was my big stress, was supporting a child while I was in university. And so I basically didn't even dress right to go to the interview. I wore like jeans and a sport jacket. I didn't put a tie on or suit. And I go in really relaxed into this interview, and shockingly, at the end of the interview, they offered me a job. And so a bunch of people talked to me and said, you're crazy if you turn this down. You're being offered brand management at P&G. You don't say no to that. I mean, they only hire MBAs, and you're a bachelor's degree from the University of Cincinnati, which is not a top school. And you studied psychology and physiology. I mean, you're getting into the best business program in the world. I mean, don't be stupid. And so I accepted it. And I started, that job in the US, and I started as a brand assistant in 1985. And I actually did very well and was promoted very quickly. And by 1988, I was a brand manager. Within 3 years, I was a brand manager. And then serendipity knocks on my door again. I get my first non-American boss, and my boss was from Peru. And it's now 1990. And for those of you who were not alive back then, there was the beginning of Gulf War I, which was the first time when George Bush Sr., basically counterattacked Iraq and went through Kuwait, and Kuwait was invaded and all of this. And, we were sitting at lunch with my boss talking about, the whole thing. And of course, there was a bunch of Americans talking who have never really been anywhere. My boss just blows up, and he was from Peru. And he just says, you Americans, you know nothing about the world. You don't know anything about the world. You haven't been anywhere. You don't know anything. You have no idea how the world really is. This place is like a big cocoon that you live in. And it so shook me up that I went home that night and I decided that I wanted to leave the US and work overseas. And so I told the company I wanted to leave, and this was, 1990. And, there weren't very many expats at that time. I think there was like 150 worldwide in Procter and Gamble. So it was a very small group. And my boss didn't want me to leave. And most American expats, when they leave the US, P&G would send them to Mexico because it was nice and close and safe. And if they got homesick, they could be home in 3 hours on a plane. Very rarely did they go any further than Mexico. And so I was thinking I would end up going to Mexico. And so my boss goes to HR and says, I want you to offer him an assignment that he'll never take. Give him an assignment that no American has ever gone to. And so HR said, okay, we'll do that. And we've got the job for him. And the assignment was Morocco. And I went on a look-see visit to Morocco, and I was dying to go. And then when I get there for this visit, just to see the place, I was completely hit with culture shock. Everybody spoke French, everybody spoke Moroccan Arabic, nobody spoke English. It was a completely different culture. There were camels on the streets and herds of sheep on the streets. And, I was in a complete state of culture shock. And on the way back to Cincinnati to give my decision, we flew through Paris, through Orly Airport. And I admit to all of you, I cried in the airport. I was so scared. It's funny, you want something in life really bad. Like I wanted to leave my country, but then once it's put in front of me, suddenly my country looked really good. And I was scared. I admit it, I was scared. And so we go back and I decided I would turn down the assignment. And so I'm sitting in my office preparing my little speech to turn it down. And guess what came to my door? Serendipity knocked on my door by the name of a guy named Andy Smith, who was about 65 years old at the time. And he knew that I had been on a look-see visit. Not many people knew because it's supposed to be secret, but he knew. And so he comes by my office right when I'm about ready to pick up the phone, and he says, hey, I heard they offered you Africa. And I said, yeah, but my family and my mother-in-law is very upset. And I give him this long list of basically family complaints. I'm blaming my family. Oh, my wife will be afraid, and my mother-in-law will be upset that the grandkids are far away, and all this whining and complaining. It wasn't really real, but that's how you say no to something when you're scared. You have to make up a story. I can't go to the company and say I'm scared. I have to make something up. And so the story was my family. And he looks at me and he starts yelling at me, and he says something to me I'll never forget. He said, look at me. I'm 65 years old. Do you want to know what I regret in my life? I regret all the risks I didn't take. I regret nothing that I did. I regret what I didn't do. And he said, if you don't go to Africa, if you don't go to Morocco, you will regret it the rest of your life. And I was so stunned, and it made so much sense that in that split second, I changed my mind and I said, I'm going. And so I picked up the phone, and instead of saying I'm not coming, I picked up the phone, called the general manager of P&G Morocco, and I told him, I'll see you in 2 months. And 2 months later, I was living in Casablanca. And when I went, I signed a paper with P&G that said 2 to 3 year assignment. I can tell you what I told them. Think 2, not 3. Well, I stayed 5 years in Morocco because I loved it so much. And I fell in love with learning about the world. And I fell in love with learning languages and meeting other people. And so when it came time to finish that assignment, P&G said, we'd love for you to stay and go to another location. And I said, bring it on. So from Morocco, I went to Poland as the marketing director. So I was the marketing manager in Morocco. I was promoted to marketing director in Poland. I was there for 3 years doing that assignment. And then I got my first CEO role in P&G, which was I was the head of the Levant region, Jordan, Syria. I also had Israel. I had the Palestinian territories as well as Lebanon. And I love that job. I love the geopolitical nature of that job. I loved every minute of it. But there was a problem back in Poland. Poland was melting down, and they had talked to a number of people in Poland, and the Polish team said, if you want a new CEO here, you should bring Jim back as CEO. So 2 years into the Jordan, Syria, Lebanon, Palestine assignment, I was called back to Poland as the CEO of both Poland and the Baltic states, which was Latvia, Lithuania, and Estonia, and then Belarus. I had all 4 countries, and I was the CEO of that for another 4 years. After that assignment, P&G says to me, you need to learn about category central roles. You've spent all your time out in developing markets. We need you to learn about how to run the business in a central location in developed region. And so they sent me from there to Switzerland, where I ran the Western Europe toilet paper business and the whole paper business, which is quite similar to the fine business today. And, a lot of people, when you tell them you work on toilet paper, they laugh. But, let me tell you, if you've never been in a consumer focus group on toilet paper, you've missed a lot of things in life, because it's the most interesting conversation. People say, I want a strong toilet paper. And what does that mean? So you have to pen it, you have to go and probe questioning and answer. And finally it comes out after 5 minutes. Well, strong means your fingers don't rip through the toilet paper. It's a really fun business, as a matter of fact, and very interesting. So I did that for a couple of years, and I had been beating up P&G that I wanted to go work in Asia. And so finally, after a number of years, because Asia was the future and Asia was the fastest growing region in the world, and I wanted my children to also know Asia and learn Asia, they sent me to the Philippines as the CEO, which was the oldest P&G business in Asia, and was a major developer of talent and a big business that had been around since pre-World War II. I was there for 4 years, and then P&G offered me an early retirement package because they didn't really know what to do with me next. And I basically, instead of going back to the US into a boring job, I said, I'll take the package. And so I retired at the age of 46 years old. And I said, I want to go and learn about other new places in the world. Even though I had 5 kids by that time, I wanted to go learn about the world. And the last frontier in the world today for business is sub-Saharan Africa. If you look at where all the growth potential is, it's in sub-Saharan Africa. So Morocco is North Africa, but I'm talking about below the Sahara. And so I took the best job that I felt was available at that time in the middle of the global financial crisis. And I went to be the CEO of Coca-Cola in West Africa, based in Lagos, Nigeria. And I did that for a couple of years. And I was in the middle of adopting a baby in the Philippines, and I was on a split family, and it was a very stressful period. So after a couple years in Nigeria, 2.5 years in Nigeria, I took a job going back to the I went first to Australia, running a paper business there. And then I worked my way back to the Philippines as the CEO of British American Tobacco. It was during that time that I joined the board of Fine Hygienic Holding in 2015. And by 2017, they had asked me to be the CEO, and I came in 2018. And that's when I moved to the UAE, where I presently live and love living. It's a wonderful country. And I'm running a great company and a great, that's been led by a wonderful family for the past 60 plus years. And, we sell a wide range of products in the region, from tissue paper to diapers to adult diapers, to masks and gloves and other disinfecting and protection items during COVID. And we also own a beverage company called Nye, which makes very healthy teas that are using Arabian flavors and are founded in the Middle East. So that's a bit my story. Now, if you take it away, there's 3 big learnings that come from my life that are very applicable to all of you as you are finishing up your studies and you're about to embark in life. The first learning is the most important learning of all, most probably, and that is that you can't coach desire in life. I can coach any of you on this call to run faster, to lose weight, to exercise. I can teach you how to give a presentation. I can teach you how to do advertising. I can teach you how to do a financial analysis. I can teach you how to run a project. I can teach you how to sell. I can teach you how to market. This stuff's all teachable. It's easy. But the most important thing of all, the only thing I interview on, is desire. Because desire cannot be taught. I can't teach desire. And if you've got desire, you are 55% of your way to having an amazing career. Desire is what got me into P&G. P&G says no to people all the time. When they said no to me, I fought back. That's desire. I wouldn't be here today if I didn't fight back with P&G. You wouldn't even know who I am if that didn't happen. I want people in my company that have desire. And that's when people come to me, for example, and they say, my father is X and Y, I instantly don't want them. I don't care who your daddy is. My dad was dead when I was 21 years old. I've never hung my name on daddy. I had to do everything by myself. And, you know, I love my father, but he never was there to help me. You got to make your own life, and you can't hang on daddy or a family name. People that want to live on family names, I'm not interested. Not interested. I want to know what you bring to the party. And I don't care what color your skin is. I don't care what nationality you are. I don't care if you're male or female. I don't care who you sleep with. I don't care about your personal choices. I don't care. What I care about is what you can bring to the party. We are a true meritocracy in FHH. The only thing I interview on is desire. I don't care about what school you went to. I don't go and say, oh, you went to Harvard. Wow. I have fired more Harvard MBAs than I can count. Okay, because there's a lot of arrogance. A lot of those MBAs, the MBA doesn't stand for Master of Business Administration. It stands for mediocre but arrogant. That's what the MBA stands for. I want people that are going to fight and will never give up, and who have perseverance, and who have resilience, and who have desire. You can't coach desire. Desire has gotten me to where I am. I was the only non-MBA hired into P&G in 1985 in marketing, and I was the only one to make CEO. So the kid from the state school with no MBA beat all the MBAs because I wanted it more than they did. Learning number 2 is you have to go from here. You have to leave a great school like Westford, and you have to understand something. You don't know very much. I know that pisses you off and you took all these classes, but if you think you know everything because you have that diploma, you're in big trouble. You don't know anything yet. And so what you need to do is you need to go to companies that will continue your education. And I'm very blessed that I went to a place like Procter and Gamble, because let's look at the facts. When P&G hired me to teach their fitness classes, they paid me $5 an hour. That was my market value. You all on this call need to ask yourself a question. What am I worth in the marketplace? Forget about what you want. Forget about what you think you're worth. What will someone pay you to do a job? That is your market value. Market value is not defined by what someone tells you. Market value is defined by what is someone willing to pay you to do a job. That's your market value. So you have to ask yourself, what is my market value? When I left university, my market value was $5 an hour. That's what it got me. That's what that diploma got me. But then I went to P&G. And because they're so respected as a business school, and marketing people from P&G are highly recruited, within a number of years, I was worth 500 times that. 500 times that. And then more. You have to build your market value over time. That's how you will accomplish the things that you want to accomplish in life. If this is why I've argued many times, I don't think people coming out of school should start their own companies the first thing they do, because you haven't learned anything yet. The best thing, if you want to run your own company, I think it's fabulous. You know what you should do? Go to a big company and experiment with their money and lose their money and make mistakes with their money. And then when you learn how to really run a business, then go and do it. But you don't know how to run a business coming out of school. Running a business is a whole different thing than theory in a classroom. Go somewhere where you're going to learn and grow. Go to big companies. Go to these places like a Pepsi-Cola, like a Johnson & Johnson, like a Procter and Gamble, like a Fine Hygienic Holding, like a Reckitt Benckiser, like a Nestle. These are the companies that have a pedigree of developing great talent and investing in people and growing them. And so you go in there and 2 years later, okay, you don't have a piece of paper, but you're a much smarter, much more clever person that has real street smarts. Don't take the biggest job based on money or whatever. Take the job where you're going to grow. The money will come. The money will come if you play the long game. Life is not a game of checkers. Life is a game of chess, and you got to think moves ahead. Life is not checkers, it's chess, and plot things out. I've always taken jobs where I would learn more. And one of my advantages is I've worked all over the world. You saw that map. Whenever I interview, people say, you can work in any culture. We trust you to do anything in the world. You are successful in Asia, Europe, Africa, Middle East, North America. We trust you. We know you can go anywhere and take a job. Compare that to someone who has never left Dubai. How do I know if I take someone from Dubai and put them in New York, they're going to be successful? They're not going to get homesick. They're not going to have cultural clashes. You have to move around. You have to take risks. You got to challenge and grow. Go where you're going to continue your education, make a conscious choice. Your education does not end when you get that diploma from the great school you're in. Your education is just beginning. And remember that. The third thing is a very important principle about humility, and it's about being nice to everyone. You never know who's going to be your boss someday. When I was running a fitness center in Cincinnati and all these P&G people were coming in, a lot of them treated me like dirt. And, I was there handing them towels and handing them locker keys. I was just a locker room attendant. And, they would come in, I would hand them keys and towels and stuff, and they wouldn't even give me time of day. Well, a few of them 5 years later were working for me, and they were pretty shocked. And of course I forgave them because I'm not a vindictive or mean person. But, they all learned a lesson. You should be nice to people because you don't know how life's going to turn out, and you don't know who's going to be your boss someday. Don't get so caught up in your title or your name or what you do or who you're related to or who you know or what famous people you hang around with. Don't get hung up on that. Be nice to the waitress. Be nice to the secretary. Be nice to everybody, because I started at the bottom of a company. I was a fitness instructor. I dug ditches and put sewer lines in for the city of Cincinnati. I've done the worst jobs you can imagine. I flipped hamburgers and fast food. That's why I treat everybody with dignity and respect. The cleaning person in our company gets a hello from me and a birthday wish on their birthday. The receptionist gets a hello and a smile and a birthday wish. And if they need my help, I'm there to help them. Everybody in the company is valuable. Everybody is equal. Everybody is important. You need to treat people with dignity and respect, and remember that you never know who's going to be your boss someday. So that basically concludes this. What we're going to do now is open it up for a Q&A. If I can ever be of help, this is my personal website, but obviously you can also check us out at finehh.com, which is the company website, and there's lots of information about that as well. I hope this was helpful, and I wish all of you an amazing life and amazing success. And I wish that you come out like me, which is whatever the dreams you have in your mind today, I want you to beat them big time. I want your life to be better than you ever thought it was going to be. And this is possible if you follow these three principles. Thank you very much.
I see questions coming up. All right, thank you so much for the wonderful session, Mr. James. I've had goosebumps in sessions, and I'm loaded with so many questions. But let's just dive right in. There's one question: what gives you the passion? How did your family take when you were going around the world?
My family has been incredibly supportive, and they embrace the adventure of it all. And even my kids, when they were moving, they were so good about it. I mean, especially as they get older and they have boyfriends and girlfriends, and they were still so good about it. I never had these big issues moving my family around. Obviously, I didn't take assignments that would put them in danger. When I went to Nigeria, I went alone. I didn't bring family with me. But if I take my wife today, who has gone to Philippines with me, and then now to the UAE, she has been an amazing support where I would not have any success today if it was not for her. So my family has been a backbone for me. And, my wife has been my completely biggest supporter and biggest cheerleader. And, it helps me so much in so many ways. I think on the passion front, this is going to be controversial, and so I'm going to apologize in advance. There's a lot of people going around giving advice and saying, do what you love. Well, what I love more than anything is sports. I love sports. And if I was really going to do what I was loving perfectly in and out every day, I would try to get a job with the International Olympic Committee. But I'm not doing that. I'm selling tissue products and masks and gloves. And my advice, and I have huge passion. I'm 57 years old. I love what I do. I love the job and I love the company. Here's my advice. Find the passion in what you do. Find the passion in what you do. So I'm in this company. What do? I use the company to do things that give me pride and passion, like CSR. We do lots of CSR and we give back to society. I love doing that. I love using the company as a pedestal to help society. We sponsor athletes. So I'm involved in track and field. In fact, we ran a virtual competition a month ago around the world with 2.5 million viewers in track and field with one of my athletes that I coach. And so I was able to link the company together with my love of the sport, and it gives me great passion. I sell products that improve people's health. I'm a health person. I'm a physiologist. I believe in human health. I believe in helping people be healthier. How can I not have more joy than working in a company that sells sterilized tissues, that sells masks that save lives? I mean, how many lives has our company saved with our virus-killing masks? We'll never know, but I'll bet it's thousands. Hundreds of thousands of people are alive because of that mask. Our gloves, virus-killing gloves. Our other products coming, and hand sanitizer. We're trying to save lives. And I get a huge amount of joy out of that. So what I do is with every job I'm in, I look for the passion in the job. I don't sit there and say, well, I don't like this stuff, and I hate it. And let me give you the biggest example of all. I was a health nut. I worked a couple of years in tobacco. So how did that work? You know what I did? I made sure I changed all the laws in the Philippines to protect children from smoking. And I became the best friend of the Philippine government in protecting children from smoking. And the Philippines gave me an award as CEO of the year for service to humanity. And I saved thousands of lives by helping support against the tobacco industry. Even though I was in tobacco, I was the only tobacco company that supported sin tax reform, that supported bans on public smoking, that supported efforts to stop kids from trying cigarettes. So I took the job and I did the job. And if you were an adult that wanted to smoke, we would sell you the product. But I did the right thing for society and the right thing for health and the right thing for the government of the Philippines. And I twisted the job and I made it fit my passions. And that's how you do it. So even in tobacco, I mean, I tell people all the time, they can't believe it. My greatest service to humanity was working in tobacco. When I left the Philippines, a number of the NGOs in the Philippines came to me and went to my going away party and said, we will miss you. You are the truly honest man of tobacco that we could work with to improve the world. That was what they said to me. The American Cancer Society used to come to the Philippines. They would take me to dinner and say, you're the kind of guy we need in tobacco. Honest, ethical, truthful, we can work with you. They worked with me. We were like partners because you have to deal with reality. Whether I'm in tobacco or not in tobacco, the industry is going to be there. People are going to smoke whether I'm there or not. I left the industry 3 years ago. People are still smoking. They didn't all quit because James Lafferty left the tobacco business. Smoking has been around for 1,000 years and it's going to be around 1,000 years from now. And so you might as well have people in the industry who are responsible, who are ethical, and who try to do the right thing. And so that gave me great passion. I was a very passionate person working in that business, even though I'm an athlete and I don't smoke. So what I encourage you to do is if I tell you, do what you love, 99% of you on this call are going to be miserable the rest of your life, taking Valium and other antidepressants and wondering, why did my life turn out this way? I think the big reason that so many people are hooked on antidepressants, something I've taken one antidepressant pill my whole life. The reason that all these people have to take this stuff It's because they've been led a group of lies, which is you should do what you love and find your purpose and all that. What you do is you take a great job in a great organization, and then you make the job fit your passions. That's what you do. Find the passion in what you do. And that's the best advice I can give you. Everybody I know who's chasing to do what they love are all miserable and in therapy and taking some kind of pill to feel better. I don't want you taking pills, and I don't want you in therapy. I want you to have a happy life, and life is great. You know, if you're on this call right now and you can eat every day and you're getting an education, you're already in the top couple of % of the world. We should be happy. I'm blessed beyond belief. I work in a great company. We didn't fire anybody during the pandemic. We didn't cut anybody's pay. There's a global pandemic going on where people are starving. We're paying all of our people. Just that alone, I should be grateful for what I have, and I am. I have a wife who loves me. I have a wonderful life. I have my health. You know, I went to the gym this morning. I'm still fit. What do I have to complain about? So be grateful and find the passion in what you do. That's my advice.
Right. Thank you so much, Mr. James. That's such a practical advice, especially in today's time. The chasing dreams is like chasing a mirage. Thank you so much for that. We have next question from Mr. Sultan. He's asking, what is the secret of a success in life? If you could just tell it in few words.
It's a great question, but I don't know if I'm even qualified to answer it. I mean, life is made up of different things. You've got a different subsegments. You have your family, you have your personal life, you have your professional life, and there, you will see many people who are quite successful professionally, but their personal life is in shambles. I guess I would probably say there's data, there's sociological research that was done on the average human being, adult human, and they found that the average human has 22 roles in life. And so an example of a role is being a mother is one role, being a daughter is another role, being a sister is a third role, being a business executive is a fourth role, being an aunt is a fifth role, being a cousin is sixth, being on the school board is 7, playing tennis with your friends is 8. So it doesn't matter whether you have 22 or not, or if you have 24 or 27. The average human has 22 distinct roles that they have to perform in their life. Here's the secret. You can only do 5 well, and I call them the 5-fingered roles. You can only count them on one hand. And so my 5 roles today is husband, father, CEO, coach and philanthropist, and my personal physical fitness, like I'm an athlete. That's it. That's the only things I do well. The rest I don't do well. I'm not the best brother to my sisters and brothers. I'm not. I don't go home for every birthday. I don't fly to the US for every birthday. I call them, but I'm not like an amazing brother that's always there. When I have a nephew or niece get married, I don't go. I send a gift, but I don't go, because you can't do everything. And so I think the secret to success, from my humble view, and I don't know if I'm really the right person because, I'm still midway through my life here, but I think it's to find your 5 roles in life and do those 5 things well, and not try to do everything well. You can't do everything well. You just can't. And so you pick and choose your battles, and with focus, you can do 5 things well. You can't do 22 roles well. You can't. There's only 24 hours in a day and 7 days in a week. Nobody gets more time than that. We all got the same limitation, 24 hours in a day and 7 days in a week. You can't do 22 roles well. And I know people that tried, and then they're always frustrated. Pick and choose. And when a new role comes in, you have to put something out. And I can tell lots of stories how through the course of my life, like when I had my first child, I had to give things up. You can't have a baby and say everything has to stay the same. That's called immaturity. When you go and you say, I had a baby, but I want my whole life to remain untouched, that's called being immature. Of course, your life's going to change the minute you have a child. If you don't want it to change, then don't have a child. But if you have a child, you have to then make choices. You have to give something up. Before I had kids, I was a scratch golfer. I was a very low handicap, 7 handicap. I haven't played golf in 10 years. I can't go and play on a golf course for 3 and 4 hours a day. I don't have time. I've got my kids. I have my wife. I have my job. I don't cry about that. I don't go and say, it's so terrible. I wish I could play more golf. This is life. If I wanted to play golf, I shouldn't have had a big family. This is how it goes. And it's called maturity. You're mature about the situation, and you accept that you have to make choices in life. You can't have everything. You cannot have everything. So you have to pick and choose. And that, I think, is the secret to success, in my view.
Right, great. It's a great advice there. Just choose what you're good at, and do that consistently. Thank you so much for that, Mr. James. The next question we have is from Mr. Nihal. He's asking how to reignite your passion when you're clouded with fears.
Well, the fact that you're afraid is a very good thing, because a lot of people don't like to acknowledge that they're afraid. And I actually, the Morocco experience was a life changer for me, because I was terrified. I was terrified. And that day I got on the plane to fly there, this was before all the security in the airport. We had 150 people in the airport. People were crying. My kids were crying. They were grabbing their grandmother on the legs. I had to pry my children from hugging their, family. And I don't want to go. And we get on the plane. The whole plane is looking at us. There's all these sobbing children and us sobbing. And, it was a flight to Paris to make the connection to Casablanca. So, people are like, everybody was happy to be going to Paris. Here's this sobbing family. It looked kind of stupid. When I got there, and it doesn't happen in one day, and it doesn't happen all at once, it happens gradually. Suddenly, about somewhere between 12 and 18 months in Morocco, it became home. And I noticed it because the first time I went home to Cincinnati at month 6, I loved it. And when I went to get back on the plane, I dreaded it. When I went home at 12 months for Christmas, I was so excited to get home and to Cincinnati. And then when I left after 2 weeks, we were miserable. But then at like 18 months, I found myself in Cincinnati saying, I can't wait to get back home to Casablanca. And I realized that I had conquered all the fears. I had learned how to speak French. I spoke some basic Arabic, and my friends were there. My life was there, and I loved my life. And it became home. And that gave me huge passion to say, I can find joy anywhere, and find any place can become home. And so when I later went to Poland, Poland became home. When I later went to Switzerland, Switzerland became home. When I went to the Philippines, Philippines definitely became home. And in the UAE today, this is home. I'm home. And I love it. My wife loves it, and we're very happy. And I think here's what it goes back to. It goes back to Morocco. You're afraid. I admire you for that. Now, what you have to do is consciously conquer the fear. You have to do it. And when you conquer that fear and you're victorious, the euphoria that you will get of passion is beyond comprehension, because you can do it. And there's a wonderful feeling of that. And you see that in extreme sports. I mean, go and interview anybody in Dubai that is involved in skydiving over the Palm, and they'll tell you these people are terrified, but when they land, they're screaming and crying and cheering. They can't stop cheering because they conquered a fear. And it's a huge empowerment to a human being when you beat your fears. I strongly believe that step one is you must acknowledge your fears. There's a lot of people that have big egos, and they say, I'm not afraid of anything. I'm not afraid. I just don't want to do it. Those people never grow, because they're so hung up on their ego and the perception of how people perceive them that they never acknowledge fear. So step one is you have to acknowledge it. And then step two is you have to conquer it, and you have to consciously conquer it. And I've been doing that ever since. I mean, a lot of people my age will say, I'm not moving to Dubai, a new place. And, I'm settled in my life. I've worked hard enough, all these excuses. I've been working 35 years. I don't want to do this anymore. I just want to settle down and sit down and relax. And I want to get up when I want to get up, and I want to do all that. I sat there and I looked at this job and I said, you gotta be kidding me, man. This great company, this great ownership, the Nuckel family, this great family. I get to live in a new place and learn new things and learn a new thing. I've been to Dubai a million times, but I love the city, but I never lived there. Living is different than visiting. And I'm 55 years old at the time. Damn, let's go. And my wife was, let's go. She couldn't wait. You know, that's the attitude of growth. You jump on these things and then you feel good about it. So I really, believe that I admire you for saying that you're scared, because you're already halfway home. Admit it and then go and beat it. We're all afraid of something, but you have to conquer those fears.
Right. Thank you so much. We have another question coming from Ms. Aisha Muhammad. That her question is, what are the major challenges or changes that companies will have in the next 5 years, and what skills should we develop to be ahead of our game?
I think that the skill sets are not dramatically, shifting. And if you look at like what was important for me to be successful in the mid 80s and what I'm successful today, is that it's not that they've all changed. What has changed is the mix and the percentages. And I'll give you an example. When I joined P&G, working well with others was considered an important skill. But now EQ, or working with others, but having emotional intelligence, has become 3 times more important than it was in 1985. And you know why? Because we now work in a global world with virtual reality and with virtual systems like this. Your skill set has to be much more developed in people skills. And at the same time, a whole generation of the world grew up being glued to a phone or a cell phone or a computer screen, and they lost their people skills. I mean, I see young people all the time that I have worked with, they just have no people skills whatsoever, and it's going to kill them. They don't answer emails. They don't listen to you. You're talking right at them. They pick up their phone and start reading messages right in the middle of your discussion. I mean, that's so incredibly rude. I mean, how would you guys feel if I pick up my phone right now and I stop talking and I start reading my messages? I mean, you would say, what the hell? This guy committed to do this speech to all of us, and then he just stops in the middle and starts reading messages. But I get people that do that all the time. And if you look at today, the biggest thing that's talked about among senior executives for junior people is EQ. Number 1. Now, when I came in the company, it was top 5, but it wasn't number 1. Today, it's number 1, because what happened is that as we went into a digital world, and as a whole generation of people lost their people interaction. I mean, there are people today that have no human interaction. They just interact over a screen. And so they don't know how to behave. They don't know how to talk to someone. They don't know how to interact. They don't know how to keep a conversation going. They don't know how to do these things. And, I've got people in my family that I worry about. They just don't have any social skills. I mean, you won't make it. No company today, it's all about interrelation and working together and teamwork and cross-border collaboration. You've got to have the EQ. And, I'll give you some simple tips. Tip number 1, you don't have to answer your phone. My phone is permanently on silent, but I return every missed call. Call people back. Advice number 2, if you're one of these folks that doesn't answer emails and just lets them float, okay, I'm sorry, you're basically kind of an asshole. I don't know how else to say it. You're an ass. I mean, why would you do that to someone? Answer your mails. I get 700 mails a day and I answer them. Okay. So if I can do it, you can do it. Answer your mails and be respectful to people. Now, if you get strange messages on social media that people you don't know, you don't have to answer those. Okay. I get people all the time. Hi. What do you want? So I'm supposed to say hi back, and then how are you? And I'm fine. How are you? Yeah. I don't have time for that. And I don't know who this person is. Okay, but people that I know who are emailing me, who have my email address, they get an answer. All of them, 100%. You don't ignore people. You don't ignore people. This is basic humanity. And I'm just blown away at people that don't answer their mails. They don't return your calls. or that you're on WhatsApp, you send them a WhatsApp, you see it turns blue, you know they read the message and they don't answer you. I mean, how do you think that makes the other party feel? What do you think they think about you? So, you know, there's a lot of good common sense on these things. You know, we just hired a kid who just finished high school in Dubai. Just finished high school. And because his family needs money, he's not going to go to university right now, and he needs to get a job to support his mom. His dad is dead, and he has to support his mom and his little siblings. What a responsible kid. So we say, we're a company, we don't care about what paperwork you have. We care about who you are. So we interview this kid, and he is really motivated. So he's got desire like crazy, and he's a pretty smart young man. And so we made him an offer just this past week. Now, this is a 18-year-old, and we made him an offer. I don't know. I think it's like 10,000 AED a month. Okay. We made him an offer. He's 18 years old. And so it's not a mind-blowing salary, but it's a good start for an 18-year-old kid. He wrote everybody in the company that he met this incredibly well-written and articulate letter, like within an hour. That's EQ. You know, when someone is nice to you, you thank them in writing, the old-fashioned way, not just a verbal, hey, thanks, but, you know, you take the time. This kid is so full of EQ, and we want him. And so, you know what? We've hired into a very decent role, a high school senior who will start tomorrow working for us, who just graduated from high school. And he's got a management job in our company because he's got all the talent. Forget his age. Forget that he doesn't have a bachelor's degree. I don't care. My head of digital marketing right now in the company, she's a superstar. She has no college degree. We don't care. I hire people, not paperwork. We hire people, humans. Bill Gates doesn't have a college degree. Jobs didn't have a college degree. I mean, I have one, great, but that's not a guarantee. It's not a guarantee of anything. You've got what's inside your heart and the passion that you bring to the table. So, you know, these are real examples. We just offered this guy this past week. He starts on Sunday, on tomorrow. And, you know, I bet he's going to do great. And if he wants to go to school later, we'll totally support him and help him do that. And I think it would be a good thing. But, you know, I understand his need. Right now, his family has no money. His mom lost her job, and he needs to step up and help his family. That's a pretty responsible thing to do. And I tip my cap. So I don't think there's any new skill. You want to hear a list of new skills? You're not going to get it. The skills you need to be it is EQ. You need communication skills. Warren Buffett said the number one skill out there lacking is communication skills. You got to know how to write, and you got to know how to speak. Number 3 is leadership. And number 4 is critical thinking. Critical thinking. You got to be able to think, not just follow a playbook, but think differently and come up with solutions to problems. Because that's all my job is solutions. Finding solutions to problems. Every day I wake up, I have problems, I have to figure it out. There's no book to open that's going to tell me how to do it. You got to think about it and figure it out on your own. Those are the skills that you need in today's world. If you bring problem solving, that's why do you think a lot of companies hire philosophy majors? I'll tell you why. Because philosophy majors are some of the best thinkers out there. We need people who can think through problems, not just run the mathematics. Business is not mathematics. It's very, very soft science. It's thinking through things. So, you know, those are the skill sets. It hasn't changed in the last 35 years. It's only the weighting has changed. EQ has become number 1. It used to be number 4 or 5, but it was always in the top, you know, in those top skills, but it just changed as the world has changed.
Thank you so much, Mr. James. Ladies and gentlemen, we are having a lot of questions coming in. Few of the questions I'm skipping because I feel like Mr. James would have answered that in his explanation to one of the other questions. So another question we have is, have you ever regretted anything in life about anything? What is the biggest risk or challenge you've dealt with, and how was a success story? And lastly, what should the youth need to do in the time of COVID-19 and economic collapse? And I think you've answered 3 of that. Let me just paraphrase it again for you. Have you ever regretted in life about anything? Is regret a part of your story?
Now, absolutely, there's big mistakes that have been made. Now, if we're going to go down this path, then you guys better be ready, because this is going to be very personal. The biggest mistake of my life is so big that number two, I don't even know what number two is. And it's very straightforward. I was in a marriage in the Philippines and married 25 years. And then I moved to Nigeria alone. I did alone because we were adopting an orphan in the Philippines, and my wife and kids had to stay in the Philippines. And now, if split family is one thing, but if you live in Dubai and your family's in Oman, that's easy. It's a 1-hour flight. Okay. But Manila to Lagos is 17 hours in the air, and there's no direct flight. And so you spend all day to fly, and you change, 8 time zones, and it's a nightmare. So I never saw my family. And so I was very lonely, and I started coaching the Olympic team in Nigeria. And I had an affair with one of the athletes, and that affair destroyed my marriage, because my wife didn't deserve that. And I cheated on her, and it destroyed our marriage, and we got divorced. And I screwed the whole thing up. I take all responsibility. My wife didn't deserve that. Now, it doesn't matter that you're married 25 years and you're a great husband if you cheat and you're 26. You don't get credits for the first 25. Infidelity destroys a marriage. And if any of you are going to get married and you think you still want to play around on the side, then don't get married, because it destroys the entire marriage. And so, you know what? I screwed up everything, and I got divorced, and I've been now remarried for, over 5 years. And what's the learning? The learning is there won't be a second time. And there will never be a second time. I won't screw this up again. I'm in a wonderful marriage with now another person. She's the best thing that's ever happened to me, and I will not do that to her. I won't make the same mistake twice. My ex-wife and I are best friends. We talk every day. We support each other. She's remarried and very happy. And, we've made it work. But the big reason it worked is because I admitted I was the jerk. And I took all responsibility. In fact, when I got divorced, I never even hired a lawyer. I gave her everything, because it was my fault and I deserved to pay the price. And voila, that's the biggest mistake in my life, is that, there are things you do in life that you can't repair with an apology. If I pick up a plate and I throw the plate on the ground and the plate shatters into a million pieces, and then I stand over the plate and I say, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean that. I'm so sorry. Oh, please forgive me. Forgive me. The plate doesn't go back together. It'll never go back together. There are some things that you do in life that break things irreplaceably. And infidelity is one of them. Marriage is a sacred partnership between two people. You don't betray that. If you can't handle it, don't get married. It's very straightforward. And so, and when I got married my second time, I looked at myself in the mirror and I said, are you prepared that until you die, this is the only woman you will ever be with? And I said, yes. And then I got married. And I've lived by that credo every day. I don't care what happens in my life. There will not be another instance of that. So that's the biggest mistake in my life. It's from my private life. And I paid an enormous price. But that's life. You pay a price for your mistakes. And that's my biggest mistake by far. It's so big that I don't even know what number two is. If you say, well, what was the second? I have no idea what it is. There you have it.
Thank you so much, Mr. James, for sharing that. I know it is quite personal, but thank you so much for sharing that. Moving on, we have next question from Mr. Kamran Anwar. He's asking, do you think staying as a CEO, staying for so long in a single position or a single company limits the ability to do something new and different?
It can. It's a good question. It can. It depends on the company. I mean, if you're in a place like Nestle or Procter and Gamble, and you're changing categories and you're changing countries and you're changing jobs, the growth curve can remain quite high. But, obviously, if you're fixed in one location, because moving is a big part of learning. Being thrown out of your comfort zone is a huge part of learning. I mean, my advice to many young people is you got to get out of your comfort zone. Living with mommy and daddy and everything's nice and fun, and you get to save all your money and go out with your friends every night, you're not growing. You got to go out and see the world. I mean, trust me, yesterday I was your age coming out of school with a baby. Yesterday, in the blink of an eye, I'm now 57 years old. I got 3 grandkids. That baby is now 35 years old and got 3 kids and married. And the last 35 years went by in a flash. Life moves at light speed. So get on with it. Get busy living or get busy dying. That's my advice. Get on with it. And so, you know, if you are in your comfort zone, you got to get out of it. Now, if you're in a company that has locked you into one location, one job, and no movement, then I think at some point when the learning curve has slowed, you got to move on. And there's nothing wrong with that. But that's not your fault, and that's not a sign of disloyalty. That is the shame on the company for not creating opportunities for good people to change and move and grow. And you know, if I lost somebody for that reason, then it's my fault, because I should be creating opportunities for everybody to be put out of their comfort zone by changing location, changing job, changing responsibility. You know, there's lots of variables that I can play with in this to get people to be challenged and to keep growing. But you owe it to yourself to keep growing, and you should evaluate the company you're in and the situation you're in and say, do I have real chances to mix it up? And if the answer is yes, you should stay and mix it up if you're happy. If you don't have an opportunity to mix it up, then move on.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. James. One more question from one of our listeners in Facebook. What advice would you give to a smart and desirous fresh graduate who has been turned down by employers due to not enough number of years of experiences? Like a lot of graduates are being turned down. Yeah.
I would, first of all, I would handpick companies that don't care about that kind. There are a number of companies like P&G as an example. They don't care about experience. They don't care. They hire entry level people. You know, I would target in on companies that are looking for the raw talent, and not all companies are looking for that. So you have to pick and choose. You have to do your research. What is their recruiting philosophy? And then the second thing is I would stand out. You know, let me give you some examples on standing out and how to do it and not to do it. Let's take LinkedIn, which is a very effective tool to get a job. Now, I get messages on LinkedIn all the time, and I'll tell you exactly what I do with them. The first thing I get, and I'm going to explain each one so that you understand the thinking behind it. The first one I get is someone writes to me directly and says, "You're the CEO. I want to be a sales rep in the company. Can you get me a job?" They get put in the garbage can very quickly. Why? Because if they had any kind of common sense, they would know that the CEO does not hire people directly at sales rep level. Okay. And I'm not going to overrule my team. I don't do that. A good CEO doesn't say, "Hey, hire this guy because I like him." No, that never happens. That doesn't set you up for success. If I force you on one of my people, they don't own you. They don't own the decision, and they feel bitter. Do you want to work for a boss that doesn't own you and who is bitter? I let my people hire their people. I let my people pick their teams. I don't get involved, and you should think about it. So these people that write to me directly, get me an entry-level job, they never get the job, and they never get it anywhere, and they don't understand because they've come up with this theory. I'm going to shortcut, and I'm going to go to the CEO and get everything done. No CEO that I know would ever overrule their people like this. We don't do that. You want your people to own their team and feel ownership in their team, and to believe in their team and say, "I picked my team. I believe in my players." They won't say that if they get someone thrown down their throat. So it's a lack of common sense and a lack of thinking skills and thinking you can shortcut the system. That person gets put in the garbage. Person number 2 says the following: "Dear sir or madam," instantly put in the garbage. If you can't take the time to be detail oriented and to write me personally, then forget you. I'm not interested. So what you have is a copy and paste, and you're sending out 500 of these a day. Well, guess what? I'm not even going to respond. So if you don't even take the time to read the company that I'm leading or read my name or say, "Dear Mr. Lafferty, I would like to work for Fine Hygienic Holding." Now you have my attention. But "Dear Sir" or "Madam" or "Hello," in the garbage instantly. What does this show? Lack of EQ. You have no understanding about how people feel and how people think when you write a letter like that. So because you have no EQ, I'm not remotely interested in having you on my team, because low EQ people don't succeed. Third one is a letter full of typos and full of mistakes, and they've got wrong information, and they put, "Dear Mr. Lafferty, I want to work," and they've got so many of their writing that they put, "I want to work for Carrefour." Well, I don't work for Carrefour, but they got mistakes instantly in the garbage can. Why? No attention to detail. When you send a letter to a prospective employer, it must be perfect. It must be perfect. Because there's time in life when you have to be perfect. You don't make typos on your CV. Any typo on a CV that I get is in the garbage. You will never be interviewed by me. Because if you can't even spend time proofreading your own CV, you know what you're going to do when I give you a budget of $10 million? You're going to screw up and make mistakes and lose millions. Because you don't have attention to detail. Attention to detail is incredibly important, and you have to know when to do it. Then there's the last kind of person. Last kind of person does their homework, and they say, "I want to know more about this guy." You can Google me in 5 minutes and bring up 1,000 articles. I'm all over the internet. Then they can Google Fine Hygienic Holding. Within 15 or 20 minutes of research, you know a lot about the company. Then you take the time to write me a dedicated letter that says, "Dear Mr. Lafferty, I have researched Fine Hygienic Holding, and I've looked at the things you're doing with women's empowerment. I've looked at the things you've launched and what you do with Fine Guard masks. I love what you're doing, and I want to be a part of the team." That CV will be sent to human resources and say, interview them. Not give them a job. I'm not going to mandate you get hired, but you're going to get in the door. And those are the kinds of people that get a shot. And those are the kinds of people that get hired. The rest of them, all in the garbage can. All in the garbage can. I don't even respond. And then the last one, the last one, is that people that I don't even know write to me and say, "Your job, the following job has been posted on your careers page. It's sales development leader for the UAE. Would you please send a good word about me to the hiring team? Thank you." I answer them back. I do not get involved, and I do not put my thumb on the scale. And I do not try to influence the decision. On top of that, I have no idea who you are. Why would I recommend you? I don't know who you, what, because you asked me? I know my recommendation is highly respected in the world because I only recommend what I know. And I don't recommend strangers. And so asking me, I would never ask a stranger to recommend me. I just don't even understand it. What basis would a stranger be to recommend me? Because I asked them? That's not good enough. You need to know people to recommend them. You have to know their skills, know their strengths and weaknesses. I only recommend what I know. I don't recommend people I don't know. So people that send that to me, I don't, you know, I let them go ahead and apply, and maybe they get hired. I don't follow up. I'm not vindictive, but I'm not going to really pursue anything with them because they don't show much common sense. Why would you ask a CEO who doesn't know you to recommend you? Because you connected on LinkedIn? I have 20,000 connections. I connect with anyone who asks. I don't pick. I connect with everybody who asks. So just being connected to me doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean anything at all. So I hope that's helpful. If you want to find a job, there's a whole world out there for people that are hiring entry level and they want to see people with desire. But you got to show and you got to be different. You can't just do a mass marketing tool and a mass email and expect to get a job. You got to target and go after it. And then you'll land something great.
Thank you so much, Mr. James. I know we are at 4:19. I just wanted to know, do you want to take more questions? Or
we can go to 4:30 if people want to stay on.
All right. So, okay. We have a few more questions. All right. So, Mr. James, I'll just ask you the next question we have from Ms. Lisa is, what will be the impact of AI to social skills in MNCs for employees?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
The impact of AI to social skills of MNC of an MNC employees?
Yeah, you're breaking up, Sakina. Sorry. What is the role of AI? I got that.
Yeah, what will be the impact of AI to social skills? Will AI?
I mean, look, we use AI on a lot of different things. So, we use AI in various applications in the company. I don't think that, I don't really have a point of view on its role with social skills. I think that one is one thing and one is the other. There may be some small linkages, but
You don't replace emotional skills. Emotional skills are still more important, no matter.
Oh, absolutely. Come on. At the end of the day, we're still people and we're still dealing with stuff and we're still dealing, look, the most amazing computer ever made is the human brain. I mean, let's not get so hung up on stuff that we go, oh my God, this is amazing. The human brain not only regulates our entire bodily functions, it runs all of our digestive systems and everything, but it also computes all kinds of things and puts all kinds of various elements together. There's a role and a place for AI, and it's quite amazing, especially in huge data analysis. I mean, we use AI in taking hundreds of millions of bits of data and then trying to find, patterns that the human eye and the human brain can't do, but it doesn't replace. Every time there's been this theory of like this will all replace humans and stuff like that, that ends up going by the wayside. And I don't think that it's going to replace the need for, the need for humans. It may replace certain jobs. And certainly, you see that. I mean, look, if I was a travel agent today, I would be worried. I would be worried. I mean, people can book online. You can search a million different flight options in a few seconds. That days of a personal travel agent are kind of numbered. And there are industries that will go away. But in my world, which requires free thinking skills and listening to all kinds of different information and trying to synthesize it, we have no plans in our company. We use a lot of AI, but we have no plans to replace like a marketing role or sales. You still got to sell people. You still have to go to Carrefour and sit in an office with a buyer and sell them. You can't say, talk to the computer. There's entire parts of the business where AI can be dangerous. I think in some secondary accounting roles, it could be quite tricky in the long-term outlook. We've been using it, interestingly, in fraud detection, where it analyzes patterns of material use and finds irregular patterns that could be cases of fraud. And so there might be someone in a security role in the company where their job could be at risk. That's true. And there's other admin roles that could be at risk. But like if you look in the jobs I've had, like marketing, sales, commercial, CEO, running all the different functions, I've never felt threatened by technology. But there are people that do feel threatened by technology. I'll give you an example. Many companies that the HR used to be done manually. So if you wanted to take vacation, you reported to someone. You said, how many vacation days do I have left? And the person would say, you have 20 days left. And then you would tell them, I want to take vacation on the 26th and the 27th of the month, and they would mark it in a book. Every company I was in, from P&G to Coke to BAT, there was this, what was like an HR admin role where this kind of stuff was done. And this person would also walk around in the office and note who was in the office and who was out and what were the reasons. And they would like do HR admin. If there was a change in the family status, like if I had a new baby, I would go to this person and say, hey, you got to help me. Can you get my baby into the medical plan? I've got to add a new child into the medical plan and all that. And so there was a person doing that. With the advent of ERP and SAP and Oracle and having these amazing apps that basically you do all your vacation on your phone, you approve all the vacation, the bosses approve it on the phone. You add family members or you subtract like if you get divorced, you can subtract, your ex-spouse out. All of this is done on an app. In most companies, those HR administrators, the jobs are gone. So when I was in BAT, they did a worldwide at adoption of SAP with the app. I think they've released like 500 people worldwide were outplaced because they didn't need that. Suddenly the role went away. And if you look at FHH today, we are 100% on Oracle. We don't have HR admin anymore. It's gone. Your vacation is all on your phone. And every time you want to take vacation, you apply on your phone. It comes to me and I approve it. And it's done. And then the computer keeps track of how many vacation days you've taken, how many you have left. It monitors that you don't have two people in the same level out at the same time. Everything's being done through AI and through an advanced system. That's fabulous. It's better. It saves money. It saves time. And that has led to role elimination. But there are many, many roles that, at least in my lifetime, they're not going to be replaced by AI.
Right. Okay. Thank you so much, Mr. James. Answering a few of the questions, the recording of Mr. James' talk will be available in our YouTube page, and we'll also be posting all of those in all of our social media pages as well. So yeah, few of you have been asking that question. One last question from Basil is that we know that Fine Holdings is doing a great job. Is there any plan of building an innovation hub?
We are looking at it, and we're even looking at location to have it would be basically filled with internships and young hires, and it would be an idea hub. We have been looking at Dubai specifically and Amman, Jordan, we're a dual headquarter location company. And so we have half of our headquarters is in Dubai and half is in Amman. You may say, why do you do that? But lots of companies do that. Unilever's in London and Rotterdam. Boeing is in Chicago and Seattle. Lots of people manage a dual or multi-location headquarter. This is reflective of the company was founded in Jordan, but Dubai, in being the commercial center of the region, we needed to have a strong presence here. So, a lot of my team is here and a lot of team is Amman. We were looking at that. That was obviously pre-COVID. Now that, we've kind of got into an operating rhythm with the COVID situation, we'll bring that back on the table and see what we're going to do specifically on it.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. James. And with that, I would like to officially thank you on behalf of Westford University College and all of our audience today for such a wonderful and inspiring and motivational and most importantly, practical take on life. Because it's easy to talk about passion and love in any other form, but then you took such a huge practical take on it. Thank you so much. And thank you for sharing the slice of your life with us. And so thank you so much. And everybody are just thanking you for such a great, inspiring session today. Thank you so much, Mr. James.
Okay, thank you, everyone. And have a great rest of your weekend and good luck. And if I can ever be of help, just let me know. Take care and have a great day.
All right. Thank you so much. Thank you for your time, Mr. James.
All right, thank you.
And we'll see you next week as well. Thank you so much. Thank you, Mr. James.